to open your presentation right now on my side. Okay, I can see it.
Okay.
So the rules are pretty straightforward. You have completed your part one of the exam. You have completed most of your courses, which gives you the privilege of going for the final exam. The final exam is pretty straightforward. A topic was given to you. You have completed the presentation. So now you have to present your topic. And at the same time, it's going to be like 15 to 20 minutes. There is no hard reset, like you have to be 15 minutes, no.
Okay.
But like I like 15 to 20 minutes, 15 minimum, maximum 20. The reason is like I need time to ask questions. So as soon as we are done with the part one, it will follow up with part two of the exam, of the presentation. So there are two parts. The first is presentation, and then it's interview. The interview is the part where I am going to gather the questions during your presentation, and I'm going to ask them. Now, I have studied your presentation because I was the one who gave you the topic in the first place, PCI compliant architecture, right?
Yes.
Bismillah. So there will be four categories of questions I'm going to ask you. The first category is going to be easier ones.
Okay.
And it will have a 5 set of questions. The second category will be 5 questions on the intermediate level.
Okay.
The third is going to be advanced level, 5 questions, and the last are the 5 questions at an expert level. So altogether, it's going to be 20 questions. Your interview and presentation. The degree program, the diploma program that we have this is RQF level 6, 360 credits. So essentially, you can apply for your master's program if you wish to do so after doing this. In fact, I'm assisting one of the students of getting admission in NYU. So I completed their NYU reference and recommendation letter, right? So you can do so if you want and if you choose down the line. So the diploma consists of 2 parts. Part 1 is the EduQual exam, which is the MCQs that you have already completed. So you'll be given a combined and aggregated marks on that. Part 2 is basically presentation and interview. This will have the weightage is 50-50, right? So this has 50% weightage. Within that 50% weightage, of this second part in the aggregate diploma, you have 25 marks for the presentation and 25 marks for the interview. Okay.
Okay.
So that's how it is going to be. So let's start. Just relax. It's going to be very easy. We are here to assess your knowledge. You have already been a very star pupil on our side. MashaAllah, you've already secured a job as well. So, this is just part of the process that you have to go through. And you will come out as a much more mature student once we are done with this process. All right, let's go.
Well collected.
All right.
Really quickly, sorry, Faisal Bhai, if you don't mind. So I don't know if I told you, I do work 2 jobs. So I have my other work computer in the background. Is that okay in case something pops up?
Yeah.
But I put it on that I'm on a break right now, but just in case, if you see me turn around, I'm looking at my work computer.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay. And do you mind if we take notes? I like taking notes.
You can absolutely take notes
Okay.
because I do take a lot of notes, and that becomes the evidence that we have to submit to EduQual, right?
Okay. Good. All right, let's get started. May I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please, by all means.
Perfect. Let's share. Okay. Is there a way to minimize this? Is this visible on your screen?
It is, but it's cutting, I see half of the S, the AWS, I don't see it. But I have the presentation on my side anyway. I'll be reviewing that one as you are going through it. So you can proceed.
Oh, well, I can actually fix that.
You have to just fix yes.
Yes. Why is it doing that? When I was practicing this yesterday, nothing like that was happening. Okay, let's just go ahead and get started with what we have. Hello, everyone. My name is Zaara Qadri. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for sitting through my presentation. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today, we are going to be diving into a topic that is critical and exciting. It is designing an AWS architecture for a level 1 payment service provider to ensure PCI DSS compliance. Now, I know PCI DSS compliance might not be the most thrilling topic for everyone, but I do promise I will do my best to keep you entertained. And after all, if I can make this security architecture fun, then we can make anything fun. All right. So today, let's start out by laying out what we're here to accomplish. I've been tasked with designing an AWS architecture that's not only secure, but secure enough to meet the stringent requirements of PCI DSS. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. Our goal is to create an environment that is scalable, efficient, and most importantly, keeps cardholder data safe from prying eyes. So our four main deliverables are the architecture diagram, the security policies and procedures, compliance checklist, and the implementation guide. Okay. All right. Let's start with this. What is PCI DSS? Picture this, every time you are swiping your credit card, whether you are online or you are in a store, your financial information is at risk. But there is a silent guardian working behind the scenes, and that is called the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI DSS. It is a globally recognized framework designed to protect credit card information, established by major credit card companies such as Visa, MasterCard, American Express. It sets the standard quite high for security practices that the businesses must follow. And if they are accepting, processing, storing, or transmitting credit card data. So this is basically how it works. It has 12 core requirements, ranging from installing and maintaining a secure network to implementing strong access control measures. These requirements are designed to create a secure environment that shields sensitive cardholder data from cybercriminals. So for example, let's say that businesses, they must encrypt their data during transmission, right? Now, regularly, they will have to also update their security software. They're going to restrict access to the data on a need-to-know basis, giving only permissions for certain things for certain people and different tasks. So complying with the PCI DSS isn't just about following the rules, it's about building the trust with customers as well. Because if you do not do that, you will be having costly data breaches. I'm going to give you an example of that in a few more slides, actually. PCI DSS is the backbone of secure payment processing, and it is going to ensure that your data is protected. And your financial data is protected no matter how you choose to spend it or where you're choosing to spend it. Okay, so what is relevant for a level 1 payment processing provider? Why did Faisal Bhai ask us to speak about a level 1 payment process provider? Well, level 1 is top tier in PCI DSS compliance. It is reserved for the largest and most high-risk merchants. Let me move this out of the way. Sorry, there we are. Okay. To qualify as a level 1 merchant, you must need to process over 6 million transactions annually or be a company that has experienced a significant data breach, because then you also have to comply with level 1. So what does it mean to be level 1? It comes with very, very stringent requirements. Every year, you must undergo a comprehensive on-site assessment that is going to be conducted by a QSA, Quality Security Assessor. This in-depth audit is going to ensure that your entire payment environment is secure. Additionally, you will need to run quarterly network scans that are approved by ASV to catch any vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. Sorry, if you don't know what ASV is approved scanning vendors. The scope of a level 1 compliance is quite extensive. It covers all systems that store, process, or transmit cardholder data, and it requires robust security measures across your entire organization. So simply put, level 1 is all about maintaining the highest level of security, ensuring that your customer's payment is protected every step of the way. Okay. All right, so now let me give you that very important real world example that I was talking about earlier. For those of you who do not live in the United States, Target is a very big store. I don't know if you know about Walmart. It is, it's an incredibly huge store over here, and everyone loves going to Target. So one of our biggest PCI DSS compliance failures in history was the Target data breach of 2013 during the holiday season. So in the US, we call the holiday season around Christmas time, Thanksgiving time, but specifically Christmas time. Cyber criminals, they infiltrated Target's network and stole 40 million credit and debit card numbers. But how did they do that? It started with a small spear phishing attack on one of Target's vendors. Giving the attackers access to Target's network, they installed a malware called Captoxa. I believe that's how you pronounce it, on Target's point of sale systems. Secretly, they took the card data as the customers were swiping their cards. Now, I don't know if you know this, but during Christmas time, if you ever go to Target, any Target at all, no matter what time you go, whether it's 10 at night, whether it's 10 in the morning, there are hundreds of thousands of people just swiping, buying whatever they can. So the shocking part about this was that Target already had 1.6 million malware detection, a $1.6 million malware detection system. And it did spot the attack, but the alerts were ignored for 3 weeks. I mean, the breach was finally discovered eventually when a third-party bank noticed that there were some suspicious patterns of transactions linked to Target customers. But by the time the breach itself was discovered, the damage was already done. The stolen data that the attackers got away with was card numbers, expiration dates, your CVVs, which is the 3-digit number on the back of your card, and your encrypted pins as well, because if you're swiping your debit card, you're putting your pin in there. They had all the information. Whatever you were doing on that little machine, they had that information. So what was the fallout for this data breach? $18.5 million in settlements and $202 million in legal costs separate. But more than that, this breach was a wake-up call about the importance of PCI DSS compliance. It showed that even with such advanced security tools, if you ignore the alerts, then it's going to lead to a disaster. PCI DSS isn't only about the right tools, but the Target breach reminded us that in cybersecurity, vigilance and a quick response is more important on some certain circumstances than having the right technology in place. Okay, so let's go ahead and kick things off with the architecture diagram about how we are compliant with 12 standards of PCI DSS. Now, if you are the architect, let's say, for example, we are the architects, and our job was to build the walls, set up the guards, and ensure that the right people can get in and out of our fortress. Well, that's kind of what this whole environment is. So we have things in here, instead of using things that you would use in a normal fortress like bricks, we have VPCs, we have subnets, and we have security groups as well too. You can notice that network segmentation, let's start with that. We started by creating a VPC, or a virtual private cloud. Think of this like a boundary of your house. Basically, inside the VPC, we're going to have all the small subnets, and then we're going to have the in the subnets you have the web apps, the web subnets, and you also have the app subnets too. The private subnets are like the inner part of your house, very secure and very exclusive. No one is allowed to get in without an invitation. Next, we have our security controls, how do you deploy your security forces in AWS? You have security groups, you have network ACLs. The security groups that we have implemented, you have EC2 instances controlling what gets in, what gets out, network ACLs. The network ACLs, if you think of it like this, they're kind of like the gates of a castle. Okay. They control the traffic level at a subnet type of level. Sorry if I don't explain, I'm trying to explain it in a very simple way for those of
No,
you
you
who
don't have
don't.
to because I already know about
Okay.
all of these things. So you can skim through them quickly
Okay.
because
Um,
you have 7 minutes left, 7 to 10 minutes left.
oh, okay. Let me fly through this then.
Because I
Okay.
have a lot, I have like more than 25 questions I have to ask you regarding all
Okay.
of these things that you have mentioned here, right?
Okay, perfect. Let me just skip through that then. I was going to explain everything to you one by one, but that will take some time. That'll probably take 10 minutes on its own. Okay, let's move on to the next slide then. Let's move on to the security policies and procedures. So now the policies are the rule book, okay, that keep things running smoothly. We're going to define, with access controls, we define who gets access to what. This is where in AWS specifically, you can use IAM, Identity and Access Management. We set up the roles with least privilege that you need. We don't want anyone having access to certain things that they don't need access to. Multi-factor authentication is a must. To be able to have access to certain things, you will on your various devices, not just on one device, on various devices, you will have MFA set up as well. Data encryption, everything must be encrypted, whether it's data at rest, whether it is data in transit. We will, in AWS, you can use the KMS for managing the encryption keys. Think of it like this, KMS is like your whole lock, basically your biggest lock. It's a key management service. For incident response, we are going to need a plan, of course. You have incident response in place that is going to detect, contain, and recover from any breaches that happen. In AWS, specifically for that, they have something called CloudWatch, and you will get an immediate alert if anything suspicious is happening in AWS. Compliance monitoring. So for compliance, there is regularly reviewing the logs. That is the role of what the analyst is doing, basically. That's what I am doing in my new position, actually. So you're going through, you're reviewing all of the logs, the security groups, the access controls, and in AWS specifically, they have AWS config rules that kind of let you know that if something is out of place, it immediately triggers an alert. Would you like me to tell you a few jokes while I'm doing my presentation as well?
Yeah. Please do whatever you want to do. It's okay. I mean, I'm just taking notes. I'm just writing down questions. So
Okay.
feel free.
Well, I have a funny joke about that. The what they say about the best defense is that the best defense is a good offense, but in security, the best defense is a lot of really, really well written policies and coffee. You will always see someone sitting at their computer in the office with 3 cups of coffee on a day-to-day basis. All right, let's move to the next one. Okay, this is our compliance checklist. We went through this and now we can end up here. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of this for you because this was a little bit lengthy on my part, what I had prepared for this, but these are the 12 requirements that are necessary for a level 1 payment card processing in PCI DSS.
Okay.
So as you can see, it's all written here. If the people who are watching, if they would like to go through this later, you can definitely ask me and I can give this to you.
There's
So
no
you
need. I mean, the scope of this presentation is you are presenting to me and I'm the examiner. I'm just going to go through loads of questions.
Okay, so not like I need to present to the audience, not
No.
like
You
that.
don't have to.
Okay.
This is not the theme. The theme is like you are presenting it to me as an examiner. I'm an
To you
external examiner.
specifically.
I'm just reviewing and analyzing all the things. And then I have loads of questions that I'm going to ask you, right? So
Okay.
that's how we're going to roll. Okay, so Um, it's done,
Okay.
like almost, I
No,
would say.
3 more minutes. Is
Okay,
that
3 more
is
minutes.
that enough
Yeah,
time? Oh, okay.
proceed.
Okay. All right. So we have the implementation guide. You need VPC creation, you need IAM configuration, you need compute resources. That, for example, is your EC2 instances that you need for your web servers, your applications. You need data setup. In data setup, you create RDS instances for the database, and that helps you enable encryption and configure backups as well. Storage configuration. So for the storage configuration, you use S3 buckets for storing the logs, backups, static content, security controls. You can use, you can configure WAF, you can configure guard duty, security groups, the NACLs. These are the defenses. Monitoring and logging. So for monitoring and logging, you set up CloudWatch and CloudTrail. Interestingly, I started recently using CloudTrail, so now I'm getting a little bit better of an idea about that because that's how we use it. Compliance verification, you use AWS rules to verify that everything is compliant. Let's go to the next page. All right. PCI DSS compliance is crucial for protecting cardholder data. And if we had a little bit of help, sorry, you can't see that. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, so yes, artificial intelligence and PCI DSS. Now, what if we had a little bit of help from AI? Imagine AI is basically like your assistant. It is automating those tedious tasks like data discovery and classification. So you don't have to, in the old days, they used to have to scramble to find every last piece of cardholder information. Now everything is taken care of through automation. And a lot of people don't realize on a day-to-day basis that is AI in place with the policies, with the procedures. AI is implemented to make sure these things are automated and running smoothly. To keep an eye on things 24/7. You can have AI in the background monitoring everything in real time, spotting the unusual activities. In a lot of these banking environments, the tools that they use, their dashboards that they use, they are all automated by AI already. Okay. So the most important factor for an organization, if your data protection is a key concern, then you should focus on implementing strong encryption and data masking techniques. If access control is your issue, then you're going to have access management and authentication mechanisms. And if monitoring and logging is your biggest concern, then you're going to have to invest in more comprehensive logging and monitoring solutions, like CrowdStrike. So first, let's say to determine what the most important factor is for PCI DSS compliance, implementation in your organization, you will have to conduct a risk assessment. You need to identify that what risks the cardholder data has in your infrastructure, and then you need to perform, after you identify the risk, you need to perform the assessments to see where the vulnerabilities specifically lie. Next, you need to understand the scope of the PCI DSS compliance. Sorry about that, guys. That moved. Okay. Define which systems, processes, and data are in the scope of the compliance. Identify which systems process the data, which systems are storing the data, and which ones are transmitting the cardholder data. That helps you focus on the areas that are most crucial for compliance and security. Next, you need to evaluate your current security posture. This is very important because you need to assess your existing security measures that are already in place, see the compliance that they are already following, and you need to practice and see where the gap is, basically. And then you're going to be able to evaluate where the gap is, what needs to be handled immediately, what is more lower on the list. And finally, you need to prioritize based on your impact and your risk. Sorry, I don't know why that keeps doing that. Okay. Yes, where was I? You need to You need to determine which areas have the highest impact and risk. You need to prioritize your actions based on the compliance requirements, focus on areas that are not, if they're not already addressed, which ones would lead to greater risk of non-compliance and data breaches. And finally, you need to continuously monitor and you need to adapt your systems. Your implementation strategy that you set once, it's not going to continuously just be focused on that strategy. You have to constantly evolve. The threat actors have many ways for them to evolve and many new tools that they use on a day-to-day basis. And as the people protecting that data, we have to do the same. And the only way you can monitor that is just continuous incident reports and keep changing your strategies and addressing any new risks that are in the environment. For example, every day we have a person who identifies new risks that are happening with certain companies or certain tools that we're using. We have one person whose sole job is to just keep that and identify that, so the upper management has that in the back of their mind for new implementation. And this is it. These are some of my funny memes that I added. I always like on a presentation to have something funny at the end. The first one says, "Are you sure this is how we get data into the cloud?" And as you can see, that's not how you get data into the cloud. And then this one says, "This is the best one for me because I actually did this."
It happens to us every month.
Right? I did
It
this.
happens to us every month, and the CFO asked the SysOps team, why is the budget so high? And someone forgot to put
To turn off the EC2 instance. It's
So
that
that's
simple.
why now we have gone to complete containerization. Now all the applications are containerized. If the
Yes.
demand goes up, the cluster grows automatically, and if the demand goes down, it comes down. However, some of the staging applications are still there. Okay, so that's great presentation.
Thank you. This is
I think the presentation was very good. It was concise, it was precise, and it covered all the key areas that I was looking for. Now let's jump into the question Q&A. As I said, it's going to be a mixture of questions I'm going to ask you. The first is basically, these are going to be the easier ones because I build up the momentum slowly and gradually before I can ask you some of the tougher ones. So
you say easier, but easier for you.
it's going to be easier, don't worry.
Okay.
The most important thing is what role has PCI DSS played so far in the payment card industry? Like, is it a positive role? Is it a negative role? What is the role that they have played so far?
It is definitely going to be a positive role because without the PCI DSS standards, I mean, there's just so much availability these days with the data, and especially in the US. There would just be access to all of these things. Without these specific standards, how would the security be for processing your card information? I mean, if you don't have PCI DSS, you swipe your card to buy something, the person who comes behind you could immediately take your information and use your card. You'll be for the rest of your life just turning your cards on and off without this. It seems simple, but it's just on a day-to-day, that's how simple it actually is. We don't realize how much in tune our society is with these standards and how it's being used in every single environment, whether it's a shopping mall, whether it's online ordering things off of Amazon, no matter what it is. If you're inputting your card information, then the PCI DSS standards are there.
Okay. The second is going to be, that's right. What are the primary components of PCI DSS compliance architecture? As mentioned in your presentation, what are the key primary components which are very important?
Do you mean the 12, like the 12
No.
standards?
So in your presentation, you mentioned the primary components are architecture, for example,
Yes.
architecture diagram, and
Sorry. So in my presentation, you're asking that what is, sorry, can you just repeat the question? I went blank for a second.
So what are the primary components of a PCI DSS compliant architecture, as mentioned in your presentation? So there are like 4 or 5 key elements, as I see it from your presentation, because these questions are
Yeah, like
driven from the same presentation. So what are those? Like, I can give an example. The primary components are the architecture diagram, the security
monitoring,
procedures.
testing, building the secure network systems,
Okay.
access
So,
restriction,
yes,
authentication, these types of things.
exactly. So the
Okay,
primary
okay.
components of the of the architecture is basically the architecture diagram itself that you showed me, right? Then the security
Yes,
policies, right? Then the compliance checklist, and then the implementation guide. So these are the 5 components: the diagram, the security policies, the compliance checklist, the implementation guide. These are the four to 5 components, right? Okay.
yes.
Uh, so what role, these are the easy questions, by the way. So what are the roles of access control and a PCI DSS compliance? What role does the access control plays? Why is it essential?
Well, access control is very important in PCI DSS compliance because you do not want to give access for certain types of things to everybody. I can give you an example that at work every day, I will not have the same access that my CISO is going to have into his environment. And why is that? Because if you're leaving the access open, then there is room for there's a space for there to be risk there. So that's why you have to limit the access that what person with their specific job, what accesses are they getting to the environment. I'm not going to working as an analyst be able to go in and change the security settings in our AWS environment or our Azure environment. I'm not going to be able to go in and do that.
Okay,
If I
so
was, then yes, I could mess up something and then leave something open, a
this is
risk.
a follow-up question from the previous one. So what is the most common cause of data breaches mentioned in the PCI DSS discussions over here? What is the
Human
most
error.
common? It's access control.
Access control. Okay, sorry, I thought
Weak
you're asking
access
in a
control,
general
right? Weak access.
way.
Okay. Weak access control leads to potential exploitation, right? Okay. Now this is a very easier one. Then we're going to jump on the intermediate level. What are the compliance, what are the different compliance level of PCI DSS and what do they indicate?
The 4 different levels of
Yes.
compliance. Okay. So in PCI DSS, you have level 1 compliance. Okay. Your level 1 compliance is if you have more than 6 million transactions per year. There's level 2 compliance, which I believe is 1 million to 6 million. Then there's level 3, which was, I think, less than 1 million transactions per year. And then level 4 was like, what was it? Not 10, 15, like 15 to 20K transactions per year. I believe that was what level 4 is.
So essentially, what they mean is basically the compliance level in the PCI DSS vary depending on the size and the transaction volume of the organizations, right?
Yes.
That's the key answer. Like it depends on the size and the organization volume, the transaction volume of their given organization. Okay, let's go jump onto the intermediate level questions, right?
Okay.
Okay,
Is it okay if I take a few minutes to maybe think about what you're asking and processing
yeah,
a little? Okay.
that's okay. That's okay. Uh, we have to be cognizant of the fact that the time is the most important thing over here. We have to wrap this up as well. So how does incident response fit into the PCI DSS compliant architecture? Where does it fit in? I mean, why is it important?
Why is incident response important? If you don't have incident response, then you're going to leave it up for, I mean, when an attack happens, let's say if you don't have certain steps in your incident response plan, then there's going to be a gap in what needs to be done. A mistake is going to happen. If you don't already have the plan set up, then you're not going to be able to have proper follow through and certain procedures and policies to be able to do things the way they need to be done.
Yeah,
Was
I
that
mean,
kind of
incident
what you were
response
looking
is
for?
a crucial element of PCI DSS compliance
Yes.
architecture, and it provides a structured way, a structured approach of how to deal with these security incidents, right?
Yes.
And how to take action in a swift fashion.
Yes.
Okay, what role does data encryption plays in the PCI DSS compliance?
The data encryption rule is this, that the data that is being transmitted needs to be encrypted a certain way. The data that is being stored needs to be encrypted in a certain way. If your data is not encrypted, then again, it's open access to that data. In the PCI DSS standards, there's certain standards that they have for how every piece of data is going to be stored, transmitted, whatever it is. There's a certain way that you have to do that and certain rules that you have to follow specifically for the data that's being stored. It is very strict with how you store your data.
Okay, it's good. How can monitoring and logging help maintain PCI DSS compliance? That's part of the job that you're doing right now.
Yes. So monitoring and logging on a day-to-day basis. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the Target breach, the reason for such a great breach for them was because they had a lack in their logging. So for example, what I do on a day-to-day basis, if I miss an alert that comes up in our system, and let's say that I don't pay attention to it, I'm just like, it's okay, this is an alert that we get every day. I don't need to pay much attention to that. And I move on. Later, we find out that that was a major alert. Let's say it was something that a person clicked in our organization. They clicked something, and that ended up ricocheting off of each other and ended up creating this great attack on our network. Then that is going to be directly the analyst's fault. The person who was supposed to be monitoring and seeing all of the logs, they should have the understanding that which alerts need to be looked at in more detail and which alerts do not need to be.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
This actually happened last year. I was talking to my manager about this. This happened last year. It was quite interesting. I'll tell you that another day, though.
Okay. Why is compliance monitoring important in PCI DSS compliance architecture? Why is it important that we have to monitor the compliance?
Why do we have to monitor the
So
PCI
why is
compliance
compliance
checklist?
monitoring important? Why? I mean, why do we have to do this?
Protect the data. At the end of the day, everything in security is just about protecting the data. You're protecting the consumer's information, you're protecting your organization's information, the employees, the upper people, everything that is happening on a day-to-day basis. You have to protect everything. And in
So
big,
let me ask you like this is a two-part question.
okay.
Is PCI DSS a point in time standard, or is it like requires continual effort to make sure that you are PCI compliant?
Oh yes, continuously. You have to do these tests and screenings every single year. Actually, so it depends on the size of your company. For certain companies, you have to do it more than once a year as well too. It's quite costly to do this, but PCI
Yes.
DSS is constantly evolving, and as technology is evolving, then the people, let's say in the background who are setting those standards, they have to constantly evolve and make
No,
sure.
no, I'm not talking about the standard. I'm saying why the compliance is monitoring is important. So there are two kinds of different standards. This is a lesson for you.
Okay.
Very important because your company as a bank, they have to go through the FFIEC audits, FDIC audits. FFIC have their own rule books. Then there is SAS 70, SAS 16, Type 1, Type 2 audits, right? SAS 70 is now known as SSAE 16, Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 audits.
Okay.
All of these audits are a point in time that when the day the auditor came, he was able to see that evidence existed, right?
Okay.
PCI DSS compliance, this is a continuous, you have to keep on doing continuous compliance monitoring, right? This is the
Okay.
most important thing that you have to understand because like as you evolve in your role, you'll be given more responsibilities, right? So you
Yes.
have to do more automation, you have to deploy more automation in your existing role so that you don't have to worry about picking up, looking at the screen all the time, so that you can do some strategic work as well, right? So this is a continuous monitoring. The compliance monitoring ensures that the system and the procedures are placed continually in
Okay.
place or continually meet PCI DSS standard requirements, right? It
Yes.
helps in identifying the gaps in security so that you can rectify those gaps in a timely fashion.
Yes.
All right,
Identified.
so that was good. Now let's jump into the what is the significance of using AI in PCI DSS implementation? We're
The sig-
jumping to the advanced level questions now.
I wish you wouldn't tell me it was advanced, then I would have been more relaxed about it. Um, the significance of using AI can be in PCI DSS, so you can use AI to enhance your encryption as well. Like you can optimize the algorithms that you need for encryption, for the data classifications, things like that. You can also use AI to oops, sorry. You can also use AI to help. There's certain issues that you have in these PCI architectures, like classifying the data and things like that. So with AI, you can use the AI tools to automate like the processes, the scanning of the systems, the networks, and like what was it? And like how you identify and classify certain cardholder data, you can use AI for that as well. A person does not anymore have to go through and classify the different types of data the way it probably happened 30, 40 years ago. Machine learning can actually, there's algorithms that they learn and they improve their accuracy in detecting the certain types of sensitive data versus different types of sensitive data. What else? It can automate things like, did I already mention storage? I don't remember if I mentioned storage, but yes,
Yes.
AI can, okay, yes. So AI can also automate that. And of
So
course,
essentially, AI can enhance PCI DSS implementation by automating threat detection, responding faster to anomalies, improving the accuracy of the security controls, uh, be able to perform much effective fraud detection, okay, or monitoring large volumes of transactions for suspicious activities. The possibility of embedding AI is endless, right? And
yes,
this is where you have to build upon that foundation of what you have learned in diploma in artificial intelligence operations, how you can use LLMs, large learning models,
okay.
right, to automate most of this stuff so that you can pay attention to the bigger stuff, the strategic stuff. There's a lot of things that you guys are not able to do because of the mundane tasks that you have to do day in and day out.
Monitoring logs all day.
Monitoring logs is going to consume you, right? So after 6 months, when I see you, you will have more white hair. Right?
I
This,
hope
this
not.
is this is this is what happens with the. But if you use the automation part, then there won't be any need, right? This is where it comes in. Okay, so
Sorry, on a side note, can I just tell you something?
yeah.
Actually, so we have this team that implements automation. So actually, the other day, then I helped our team with one task. There was a certain alert that kept coming. So then I worked with them to just automate that, so we don't have to keep because that alert comes in one day per person. We have to see that alert at least 200, 300 times. So then I help them with getting that automated and out of the way, so we don't have to deal with that alert.
How did you do it? Like, did you wrote like a Python script or something, or what?
No, I didn't have to write the script because we have a person who does that, but I basically, I had to like communicate back and forth and tell them that, okay, this is this issue, this is this issue. I can't tell you the specifics, but I just told him what to do. And
So
then
this is
he,
what you learn at over here, right? So the
yes,
business lingo, how to communicate. None of the certifications are going to teach you all of these things, right? So this is the next level of thinking that you have to do. Okay,
yes,
that's what we instill in our graduates to make sure like they're able to do that. I'm very proud that all those people who are graduating from us, they're able to secure jobs before even passing their exams,
yes.
right?
Months
So
before.
that's one of the you are one of the one of the biggest testimonials over here right now. Okay, so describe to me the process of configuring identity access management for PCI DSS compliance. Like, what are the key things we have to take into consideration for configuring IAM, identity access management, for PCI DSS compliance? The most important thing that we have to take into consideration first for IAM is, you know,
The access controls?
least privilege.
Least privilege, okay.
Privilege, right?
Sorry, I was
We
going to
start
say
with the
that
least
next.
privilege. We call it, like, nowadays in the industry, it's known as the zero trust model, right? So
Yes,
I'm starting
zero
some
trust.
lectures right now. Zero trust model means by default, no one has access,
Yes,
right? And then we try to give them access as per the business requirement that dictates that they need access, right?
yes.
So what else do we have to take into consideration for the IAM?
Aside from the zero trust model,
Yes.
well, you have to, that's number one that you already mentioned, the least privilege. Then that's
The
kind of where I
permission.
was going with the access controls,
The permission.
the permissions that you're going to give to what person. And
And then basically multi-factor authentication. You've already mentioned these things
yeah, you
in
the
the presentation.
MFA.
And then regular audits of access
Yes.
permissions and timely revocation of access when no longer needed. Okay. All
Yes,
right.
like if, for
So
example, if someone gets fired, you don't want to leave access for many months. Immediately, you have to have an automation that removes the access within 30 days, I believe it is. Specifically, I've seen that within 30 days, the access has to be removed.
yes, that's the standard that we follow. For some of the things, normally the access to the sensitive systems are disabled immediately when the person is given, uh, you know, notice period to serve, so that they
Yes.
don't touch anything. It can anything can go sideways, right? Okay, so how does VPC creation, like virtual private cloud creation, contributes to PCI DSS compliant architecture?
So VPC contribute. Sorry, I like writing down your questions as well. It helps me kind of separate
It's
everything.
coming from your network diagram.
Yes, yes, directly. So you asked me, sorry, can you repeat again? How
So
does?
how does VPC, virtual private cloud, on AWS, when you create that VPC,
Yes.
it contributes to PCI DSS compliant architecture? How?
Oh, how does it contribute to PCI DSS? Okay. The network segmentation. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
one of the
exactly.
main requirements of PCI DSS. I believe it's the first or second one.
So VPC creation ensures that the sensitive cardholder data is isolated from the non-sensitive data,
Yes. Yes.
right? So that's what you mentioned. What does it do? It reduces the attack surface, right?
Yes.
And
Like it puts the web
the network
servers and
segmentation
the,
is like you implement the network segmentation as per the requirement one of the standard, right? Which is the network segmentation and controlling inbound, outbound traffic and documenting what is going out, what is coming in, right? So that's how you do it. Okay.
sorry, and specifically, like for example, the how it's the web servers are placed in public versus private
Yes.
subnets. Okay,
There's a
okay.
reason. There's a reason behind it. I have gone through this in detail in my courses. Why DM servers reside in DMZ, web servers, app servers have their own subnet, database have their own subnet, and each subnet talks to each other through a defined access control list.
To
Right?
minimize the attack surface. Okay.
Yes. Right. Okay. So think of it your home, like when someone comes in your home. Some people may be able to access kitchen, like everyone can go into the kitchen, but no one is allowed to go into in your master bed, right?
Yes.
Upstairs, I mean, except certain people who are allowed to go in, like your relatives or brothers or whatever, right? Guests can't just walk in up there, right?
Yes.
So similarly, so that defines access control. You need to create that access control zones, and that's what PCI DSS basically specifically put a lot of emphasis on that. Okay, so how is compliance verification is conducted after implementing PCI DSS controls? Explain how the compliance verification is conducted. I mean, what happens?
Compliance verification.
Mhm.
Okay. Compliance verification, like when the monitoring, the audits, validating the security controls, those types of things.
Yes, yes, yes.
Not
I
that you,
mean,
oh, okay. So like,
who
so
does
for,
that? Who does that? So, for example, you said, all right, so we are PCI DSS
QSAs,
compliant. Yeah, the QSAs, right? What do they do?
QSAs. They so the QSAs are those what are they called? Certified no,
Qualified security assessors.
security assessors. Yes, I
What
was
do they
about to say.
do? What do they ask for?
So they basically they process the transactions and everything. They review the processes. They see the policies. They see if against the PCI DSS standards, like how the controls are. Are you following the access controls according to the standard? The encryption, is that being followed accordingly? The incident management, did they see your incident management book as well? And they go through that and they see that is it following the PCI standard?
Yes, that's correct. Like compliance verification involves conducting regular audits, vulnerability assessments, penetration
Pen
testing,
testers, yes, they do
data
that.
loss prevention exercises, testing all the PCI DSS requirements through a checklist. Like the standard also already gives you a checklist. You can do a dry run before the QSA comes in, because
Yes,
he'll be on site for 3 to 4 days gathering all the data, the evidence, and then he walks away, reviews everything, conducts lots of interviews, and that's how he or she determines like if you guys are PCI DSS compliant or not, right? So
yes,
it requires ensuring that all personnel follow the established procedure, okay?
yes.
All right, so what are the key factors that influence the choice of security policies in PCI DSS compliant? I mean, what are the key factors? You mentioned that in your level of, there are 4 levels. So what are
Yes,
the key factors?
the key factors for level one specifically is the amount of transactions that you're having.
Volume of
Is that what you're
transactions?
looking for?
Yes.
The scope, so you identify the scope with the amount of transactions in the PCI standards. So for example, for level one, you have, what was it, 6 million transactions yearly
I
or
just
something.
need to know, I don't need to know the numbers. I just need to know the factors, the key factors that influence the choice of security policies in a PCI DSS compliant environment. So the
Okay.
key factors include organization size, as you mentioned,
Yes.
transaction volume,
Yeah.
risk tolerance,
Risk
the risk
tolerance, that's the
appetite,
one I always forget to mention.
risk
Okay.
appetite of the organization, the
Okay.
complexity of the IT infrastructure, the
Okay.
regulatory requirements, and the nature of the cardholder data being handled, right? So these are
Yeah.
all the key things that come into play. Okay, uh, we are in the final stretch, okay?
Oh, is 20 questions not over yet? I thought
So
we
we
were
are done
done.
with 20.
Okay.
15. So we're done with 15.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So the target breach that you mentioned, right?
yes.
So discuss how the target breach influenced changes in PCI DSS standard.
So specifically, that breach really changed it because after that breach, interestingly enough, it was something so simple that Target had to do a large hire of security analysts to actually go through, and it was something so simple for their company. They had very few analysts who monitored their logs on a day-to-day basis. The workload was so overwhelming for them that they were just not able to pick up all of those
So my
alerts.
question is related to discuss how the target breach, data breach, influenced changes in PCI DSS standard. I don't want to
You
hear
don't want to know
about.
about their company.
No,
Okay.
yes. How did, like, what happens? And the PCI DSS, standing committee realized, oh shoot, like these are the changes we have to do after realizing the data breach that happened at Target, right? What happened? What influenced their behavior that the standard committee had to go back and say, okay, guys, let's go back to the drawing board and make these changes. These are expert level questions. They're going to
So
be tough.
basically, at that specific breach, the biggest thing that they had to change in the implementation was the third-party standards that weren't really that strict at the time, because the main standards were for the actual companies, let's say. But for their third-party vendors, the standards weren't as strict. So then it changed that whole environment because then everyone started realizing that we just don't need security in our systems. We need to make sure that our third party vendors have equal security as well too.
Yeah, I mean, third party was part of that. It's already one of the appendix, and the PCI DSS talks about that. The target breach caused by compromised credentials,
Yes.
lack of poor segmentation, right?
Yes.
It also highlighted weaknesses in access control and monitoring. And in response to the PCI DSS, in response to all of these things, the PCI DSS was updated to emphasize stronger access controls, internal
Specifically in
third-party,
the machines where you swipe your card, that was the
more
biggest issue.
robust monitoring
Yeah.
practices, mandatory encryption of all the sensitive data, even within the internal networks, right?
Yes.
So all of these things, they resulted in those findings. Okay. What are the strategies that can be employed to protect against the most common vulnerabilities identified in the PCI DSS standard assessment, PCI DSS assessment? So what are the what strategies can be employed to protect to protect against the most common vulnerabilities identified in the PCI DSS assessments? I mean, what should we focus more on? These are all the things that you have shown me in your diagram, right?
Yes, I don't want to give you an answer you're not looking for. I'm trying to think about what you're asking specifically.
So let me put it like, what are the most important technical controls of the PCI DSS standard? All the technical controls. You're doing one of those.
Yeah, everything. All the technical. That's why I was trying to think that. What are you asking? Because there's so many technical controls.
There are a handful of them. So the strategies
leak,
include implementing secure configuration,
yes,
file integrity
encryption,
monitoring, stronger encryption, security information event monitoring, vulnerability scanning, patching, penetration testing, employing stronger access controls, multi-factor authentication, and ensuring continuous monitoring for anomalous behavior, right? So these
yes,
are all the key things that you do right now at your
yes.
workplace. Okay, explain the challenges of integrating AI into a PCI DSS compliant architecture, particularly for small organizations.
For small organizations, I believe the biggest challenge it always ends up coming down to the cost for them. Cost is going to be the biggest challenge for them. The next biggest challenge for smaller organizations, I believe, would be they're already they're even if they're following the PCI standard, it's the security for the standard that they have is quite lacking. They're just using normal tools. Let's say they,
The
for example,
expertise, so they don't have the expertise and
they just don't have the
the cost
expertise.
and the expertise are the two things which are going to be kind of an impediment, like for these organizations, small organizations, to implement.
Yes. And unfortunately, that's where the breaches always end up happening.
Okay, so name 3 things which are important in the requirement 1 of the PCI DSS standard. Like requirement 1 is network security controls. What are the 3 things which are important? The first one is?
What are the 3 important things for network security, the access controls?
Network security, PCI DSS has 12 requirements, right?
Yes.
So in
Oh,
requirement
sorry.
1,
Okay, you're asking
requirement 1 talks
specifically
about
this.
network security controls. So what are the 4 most?
Installing the firewalls,
Yes,
the
firewall,
password
network segmentation,
protection,
that's one. Second,
the password protections,
the IDS, IPS,
yes,
intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. And the
the
third,
encryption of the card hold. I don't remember if this third, the card holder data. You protect the card holder data. So
yes, the encrypted of the VPN tunnels and multi-factor authentication, right? So
yes,
that's what which is required. Okay,
and then tracking and monitoring the access and networks. At the end is the regular testing that you have to. Do you want me to tell you the 12
no.
requirements? Okay. I mean,
You
you
know, the
already know
last
them.
set of the questions. I think the biggest breach that happened was the target breach. I think after that, there was Capital One breach, but the target breach was the one which was, no, 40 million. Home Depot was 50 something million cards. TJX
TJX had a really big one.
94 million credit cards. Heartland Payment Systems, they had 130 million credit cards, 150 million credit cards were exposed. Equifax was the biggest one, and Capital One, so on and so forth, right? The Marriott International, they had the biggest leak, and 500 million personal records, including payment card data, was compromised. That was the biggest one. Okay. So this is going to be the last question. It's a loaded question, right?
Okay.
And it carries more marks for you, I would say. Okay. Okay. So and this is going to be very important for you, how generative AI, because we don't have explainable AI yet.
Okay.
We don't have generalized AI because they're still in the development phases. We have generative AI. How generative AI can be integrated into PCI DSS compliance management process.
Into the management process.
Compliance management process. This question carries, 5 marks, so that if you
Good
are
question.
short of anything, you can bump yourself up, right? So take your time and then answer to me. Write it down if you want to write it down, but this is going to be very important for you. This is the last stretch, last question.
Okay.
When you go back,
generating.
listen to the answer that I'm going to provide it to you, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
then this is going to help you in your own job role, essentially. Okay.
So you asked for in management. I mean, generative
So
AI can.
you know what generative AI is, right? Llama
Yes,
3,
yes,
OpenAI, these are all generative
yes,
large
yes.
language models.
Yeah, so
Can you
generative
use
AI can be
generative
used.
AI?
Sorry,
Yes,
were you
go
saying something? Was I interrupting?
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, my son just walked in and started making a lot of noise. He missed the bus today. I had to tell him to leave.
Okay, that's okay. So please continue.
So for generative AI in management, I was saying that it can be used to create like a comprehensive security strategy, the policies that need to be generated, it can so AI can analyze basically the security architecture that you already have, and it can help you to create a more optimized security architecture, I guess, in a way, and it can kind of like the incident response plans, you can make those more automated with AI. And in the management role specifically, I think that's your biggest thing is because you're the one creating the incident response plans. So you can use generative AI you can basically input your plans, and it can help you to change that and give you what needs to be changed, what doesn't need to be changed according to that. And as well as, yeah, AI can draft your security policies. It can help you automate them. Basically, that's it. It can help you with your
So
policy.
yes, the generative AI role is evolving in organizations. And yes, you're right, some of the aspects. One is the automation of the policies, right? It can write down the policies and it can see if those policies are implemented in real time by evaluating the networks continuously. The other one is vulnerability detection and threat detection. It can continuously monitor the logs, IDS, IPS, IP flow, net flow, switches, logs, everything that you throw in, it can review it continuously. It can help in the incident response automation part, right? You can tailor some of the playbooks. You can design some of the playbooks of doing that. It can create security awareness and training simulations, right?
Yes.
There are various tools used by Carnegie Mellon University that they have created. One of them is Ghost.
Those
NPT.
chatbots that they use for training, are you talking about that?
Well, no. So these are
Okay.
different ones. What they do is like you can do a tabletop exercise of the whole organization going through a DDoS attack,
Okay,
right?
okay.
So these are very important tools that you can use and see the reaction of how your team is going to react. Compliance reporting and audit preparation, the whole change management process can be automated, regulated.
Compliance reporting can be automated.
Yes, right.
Okay.
So everything is continuously monitored and recorded and evaluated. Risk assessment and continuous monitoring, right? It can continuously analyze the factors and suggest mitigation strategies by generating real-time assessment reports, right? And then enhance access control management. The whole IAM process can be managed by that. Log analysis and an anomaly detection that you're doing right now, data encryption and key management, fraud detection prevention, automated penetration testing, compliance gap analysis. If it sees any gap, it can highlight, bring it to the senior management. Policy customization and optimization, the whole cloud compliance management, third-party vendor risk management. This is a very big problem wherever you go. So the benefits of generative AI in PCI DSS compliance is efficiency, automation, real-time monitoring, predictive analytics, scalability. But there are certain problems, there are certain challenges. So you can't go for any of these openly cloud available models. Like, you have to train the model by providing large amounts of data. These models, the existing generative models, are not trained in that aspect yet. They are trained mostly for content generation,
Yeah.
but they can be trained. The data privacy is another issue. You will end up running your own AI instance. And this is where AIMS comes in. AIMS means artificial intelligence integrated management system. Write it down. If you do, I will be delivering a course on that in the AI Ops in 2025. And if you do this course, just like the ISMS, Information Security Management System, organizations are gearing up to implement AIMS, AIMS, how we can manage the whole AI within the organization, right? And
Okay.
then the generative AI can sometimes function as a black box, making it hard to understand how decisions are made. This is a bigger problem. This can pose challenge to compliance during audits. This is where explainable AI is needed. But again, this is required. This is going to take some time for the explainable AI to come, on the mainstream.
Explain.
However, there are the benefits, outweigh the cons of not using the generative AI right now, right? So this is one of the things. Okay, so
The cost of implementing explainable AI, that I mean, already the cost of implementing generative AI must be so vast. That would be
no,
probably
it's
double.
not going to be, so for example, if you use OpenAI,
Okay.
right? You can use OpenAI for every 1 million tokens, the cost is $5.
Okay.
1 million tokens mean 1 million roughly characters, right?
Okay.
So it's like giving uh, information to like equivalent to 5 books of
Yeah.
500 pages each. This is like 2,500 pages of logs you provided to the AI. The AI will analyze it and will give you a synopsis of like how your network looks like from the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you can review those logs. There's no way, right? But AI can implement that. Now, the difference is that's the consumption. And then when it provides you the output, around 1 million of output, they charge $10. So $15 they will charge you for using that AI through API. The only problem is for the banks and the financial institutes, they need to have their own privacy,
Yeah.
right? Because there will be a lot of sensitive data in those logs. So if they implement a system like that, AI, that's where the cost comes in. And for running Llama 3 or 407 billion token model, the infrastructure you need is around $1 million to $2 million just for running the AI
Yeah.
hardware, right? So you can do that, absolutely yes. But for the banks and the financial institutes, the cost is low. It's not going to be significant. The problem is going to be that as you grow, the AI needs growth as well. So it is power hungry. Just today I was reading Reuters news after Fajr Salah, and I saw AWS is now jumping into creating mini nuclear power plants
Oh,
because their AI systems required lots of power consumption.
yeah.
There is no way that they can create this amount of power utilizing renewable energy,
Mm.
right? So AI needs lots of power. Until the AI scientists, they come up with a model of uh, like they can quantize the model, you can quantize the model, but the problem is like it creates inconsistencies and problems and errors and so on and so forth, right? So until we can come up with something where we reduce the hardware footprint of the AI without compromising the quality and removing the AI hallucinations and all of those things, that's the future we are looking forward for. The problem is that NVIDIA, companies like these, they thrive on people utilizing their expensive hardware, right? So until the companies jump in by themselves and start creating something like that, I think that uh, in the next few years, 5 to 10 years, the landscape will change, and we will start seeing models that we can run, AI models that we can run on smaller machines rather than running on specific larger machines. And that's the way Apple is going towards right now.
Yeah,
Because
they're going
the
towards
M4,
renewable energy.
yes, I'm really looking forward for the M4 processor.
Okay.
Once I have it in my hands, we are going to test it ourselves to see if we can reduce our own cost, because our AI cost is ballooning up, right? Anyway, so good presentation, Sister Zara. So I'm going to compile all the marks for you.
Okay. Do I find out will you give me my grade today or in a few
Yeah,
days?
just right now.
Oh, okay, okay. That's great.
If you want to know it after 2 weeks' time, it's up to you.
Well, I was being polite to give you time. I never considered the energy. It just never came in my head, the amount of energy that AI must use. Wow. Let me write that down, study on that a bit.
The hardware, it's the hardware.
The hardware.
All of these models are designed to consume large amounts of processing, specifically VRAM. You can quantize the model, but it loses its efficiency. So, okay, I have your scores with me.
The moment when the shark attacks. Feels like that.
Okay,
In Jaws.
so so in the presentation you scored 23 because it out of 25. It was very
Okay.
precise, the way I like it. The color schemes was pretty dark because I always ask them to use, light fonts.
Lighter ones.
But
Okay.
it was okay. It was good. It was concise and I was able to get the information. In the Q&A session, you scored 20 and a half out of 25, right?
Okay.
So you altogether, your aggregate score is 43 and a half out of 50, which gives you 87%. Okay.
Okay.
So that's a good marks. You're in the top 5% of the elite right now on our side, which is a good score. I think that combined with your EduQual Part 1, you will be residing somewhere between 85, something like that, inshallah. So, I congratulate you in terms of passing the exam. That's great, mashallah. Now, certain things I'm going to share with you.
Yes.
I'm very happy that you have been able to secure a job. I'm really happy that this whole journey was a great journey for you. You started with nothing, and you are now sitting in front of me working for a company on $150,000, right? So, but there are key things you have to consider. If you make a mistake, you will not be able to be successful in your careers. You don't need any external certifications. Okay, the only certification you need right now, after getting the diploma in AI Ops, is going to be CISSP.
Yes.
Okay, it is just going to be a conversation starter for you in terms of telling your client, existing client, and new prospective clients, employers, saying, "Yeah, I'm CISSP certified." However, if you really want to be successful, none of these certifications are going to teach you the skills that you need. The skills you need is automation, automation, right? You need to grow yourself into becoming a director. And if you follow the pathway, you can go there. Find opportunities of how you can automate these things and fine tune them. And start having this conversation with your CISO that we need AI models. We need to embrace AI wherever we can, starting with some of the non-specific data like logs and stuff like that we can provide. In the logs, we can parse the information and see there is no sensitive information, right?
Yes.
But like error logs are the ones that we're looking for. And if we can create some kind of, or buy something from Azure or from OpenAI, because they've already started doing that.
Yes.
They've started creating some of these open source models, not open source, but private spaces for clients as per the security and privacy requirements to be able to use AI, right? So start having that conversation, because that is going to take you to the next level. As I told you last time when you contacted me, I told you that after 1 year of studies, your first job is going to be $75,000. And after 1 year of working, then you will be at 150. Remember? It was
Yes.
in my messages. Alhamdulillah, Allah blessed you with the first job as 75. And after 1 month, you landed on that. Your value is much higher if you realize that. You can easily land in the next 1 year, 1.5 year, $250,000 to $300,000. But for that, you need to embrace the AI ops, the artificial intelligence operations, right?
Yes.
Containerization. You need to infuse the skills of DevOps, SysOps, AI, GRC, cybersecurity all together.
Altogether.
That's what is going to grow you to the next level of working as a director, as a manager, and then ultimately as a director, and the one day as a C-level officer, right? You are in the banking sector. In the banking sector, there are some specific regulations of FFIEC, FDIC, and stuff like that, right? We will provide you labs. Al-Razak labs are there. You did, so attempt those Al-Razak labs.
Okay.
Those are not simulators. You have to troubleshoot them. You have to find ways of them, do all of those things. That will teach you all the key skills that you need. You have the right information. You have all the key things. All you need now is just get yourself a master's, because you're already on the job now. Get yourself a master's and essentially a qualification like the CISSP, right? This concludes your interview. Do you have any questions for me?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for
Jazakallah
the
khair.
information.
Yusuf is going to come back to you, the academic operations team, and we will submit your data to
Okay.
EduQual, which we intend to submit within this month for all the students. I wish you the best, and do not stop the journey of learning on the portal. Keep on learning, keep on expanding yourself, and may Allah give you more success. Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Thank
Assalamu
you.
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa